Good morning, this is Jeff Hildebrand for TBL Traders. Today we're going to talk about WebMD. WebMD is an interesting stock to look at. It will be very interesting to look at the options. Firstly, we're going to look at some resistance and support and move through the charts. So we're going to look at some technicals first and try to get an idea of where our ranges would be, what type of option trades we would make if we want to make an option trade, etc. So I started with the yearly chart so that we can kind of get a deeper perspective. The trend, like most of the market at the moment, is up for WebMD. Like the other, it's sort of hard to find a channel, but you see what happened. You see what's been happening relatively recently. So I put in some resistance and support lines, which I think are important to start with before I look at or start looking for head and shoulders and more complicated flag patterns, etc. So here we have the highs between 50 and 52. We have a lot of volume and some interest around 46, which is where it's at today. We have also some strong resistance down here at about 37.20, 37.37, and another level of resistance at about 33. Now if we move in a little and we start to close this up a little, we still see our major points of resistance. We could kind of imagine a range here. Might be a little tough. I wouldn't necessarily say that, but some people might say, okay, here's the range between 37 and 50 since the beginning of the year, more or less. So let's keep going in. Where things start to get a little more clear. Our short-term trend is up with a recent pop. I want to quickly point out these candles on WebMD. There's a couple of them here and here. These are the days that kill. Here's one, here's one. Looks like every couple months you have a very good pop or drop or pop. Those are the days that kill independent traders because you've probably set up your stops. If you're trading the stock, you see it's made a 5-point, 6-point range here. These are taking out stops all the way down, okay, and taking out stops all the way up. There was a downtrend. People were putting in stops here, 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 up to the resistance here, and they get stopped out all the way up. So this is a tough stock to trade if you're not really careful with your ranges or keeping your stops tight. Okay, so let's move back to the 3-month candle chart. What do we see here? Again, we see this candle I talked about before, which killed a whole lot of people trading the stock. Fell into a trend here. Some people would say you had a head and shoulders or are setting up a head and shoulders. A lot of churn here, probably some news. And recently we're in an uptrend, but we're hitting the resistance line. So this is a dangerous spot to trade. There's basically two things that can happen. There's a lot of stops here. So stops can get taken out and it can pop, which is, wouldn't say probable, but it's possible. Or we can use this as resistance and turn around again. I kind of like this 3-month chart actually if I start thinking about option trades, or even a longer chart. But just for fun, let's see what the monthly chart has, because we are looking at short-term options trading. I have something set here. I keep my chart up. I keep my data outside trading hours because I usually trade futures. So here we are inside trading hours. Trend is obviously up. It is true to not try to fight the trend. So if you're trading the stock, to call a top here, you can. It's justified because there's resistance, but the trend is clearly up. So let's look at, are there any option trades in any of this? I'm going to go out again because the most interesting chart for me is on a longer time frame, 6-month or a year. Here's where I see the clear resistance and support lines. Here's where I start to see some technical flags setups or head and shoulders. So let's ask ourselves, is there an options trade? Are they liquid enough? Can I find options that might interest me here? And surprisingly, or not surprisingly, there's not a whole lot of open interest on WebMD for options. There is one curious thing in September. This 300 block here and this 300, these two 300 blocks. My guess is that there is a big trader, not a big trader, but there's a straddle going on here, or possibly a diagonal. There's something going on here in September. There was something going on here in June, or there is actually right this minute. 3,000 block at 50, and I don't see a hedge on this side. Maybe a little easy, maybe 800, but there is a big open interest on the call side. Somebody is betting, or was betting. I think the stock is expiring, or has expired, or the options. I find the price strange here at 50, 20, 46. Anyways, there's a big block here. So there was something here in June. There's nothing going on in July at all. So that means I wouldn't make an option trade here. If I was going to, I would look at September, because somebody believes something around the 45 level in September. If it's a straddle, they've put on a 450, say, well, let's keep it simple, 4 and 3, 7-point spread on this at 45, meaning they're betting it's going to go, they're using almost the same lines, 45 down to 32 up to 50. They're using these two resistance line here and here with the straddle to bet that it breaks this or breaks this by September. Doesn't sound like a bad trade, but again, those straddles are pretty expensive. That's relatively risky. So in short, for WebMD, if I was going to make this trade, I wouldn't touch the options. If I did touch the options, it would be in September. I would trade the stock here, and I would trade it as a possible breakout over 46, chasing out stops on a short term, and I would be out by 50. So I might put on a long trade here around around 43, 44. I would expect a little churn here, and I'd try to catch it here, and then I would put my stops between 49 and 50, and at the lower range around 40. And I think that looks like a good underlying trade. I wouldn't trade this options, and if I did, it would be for September. So thanks again. If you have any questions, let me know.